you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est Cayden qui concède le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you forgot about last night's game. Well, if you did, you're about to get reminded about it. Sorry. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by Playground. And listen to this. Playground is giving away over $115,000 in cash prizes this December at their cash game poker tables every Monday through Thursday. And don't miss the 14-year anniversary high hand giveaway on Tuesday, December 17th, excuse me, with $14,000 in prizes up for grabs. Celebrate 14 years of poker excellence. And yes, there will be cake. Get in on the action at Playground. We're also brought to you by La Bittt Tibi beer. La Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those chilly winter days, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% alcohol per can. Available in packs of 6 and 12 and in grocery stores and dépanneurs around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. And go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. And if your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is available only for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older and please play responsibly. Finally, Souvlaki Authentique. Family-operated Greek restaurants with 7 locations: Lachine, Boisbriand, Pierrefonds, and elsewhere. They use fresh Quebec chicken and fresh Quebec pork, both hand-cut, marinated in-house. Their gyro is hand-stacked in-house, never frozen. No MSG in any of the recipes. Greek potatoes, not your Yaya's Greek potatoes. These have a unique lemon sauce. Okay. Listen, last night's game was brutal. It was awful. The Canadiens didn't go to work. Thankfully for Agnello and Sammy, I showed up to work today, so we're going to talk about it. This man also showed up to work yesterday. He had to watch. At least he got paid to watch the game, and he's here with us today. He's Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, how you doing?
Indeed. Thankfully, I did get paid to watch that horror show and didn't pay $200-$400 a ticket to watch that. That was... Cayden Gooley said it after the game. It was embarrassing. I mean, they rolled over and died in the third period. Like, they just went through the motions. 8 minutes left in the game. The building was more than half empty. There were fans booing. It was bad. I mean, it was a team that just rolled over and died in the final game of a 5-game homestand at home, and they should be embarrassed. I mean, that was an embarrassing performance. It reminded me of the end of the Dominic Ducharme era when the players just played like they didn't care, and that was really bad. And it's not like Pittsburgh's a powerhouse team coming in here. They go to play Winnipeg Saturday night. The Canadiens have the worst goal differential in the NHL. They're minus 29, and the Jets have the best. They're plus 34. So it could get ugly again Saturday night. But that was a big game. I mean, final game of a five-game homestand, a chance to go 4-1, a chance to have some momentum. 8 of their next 10 games are on the road. They haven't been a good road team. They're 3-8-1 on the road. It was just ugly. It was ugly, and it was embarrassing. And as Brendan Gallagher hit the nail on the head, he said, we're not putting an entertaining product on the ice. And that has to be a big concern for the Canadiens. I might have mentioned on a previous podcast, our buddy of mine is a season ticket holder, And he's starting to seriously ponder if he's going to put out the money again next season to watch this. And I'm sure he's not alone. People will put up with the rebuild and understand there's a rebuild, but they still want to be entertained when they pay all that money to go to the Bell Center. They still want to see the team compete hard. And last night, it was a team that didn't compete hard, and they definitely weren't entertained. Unless there's a lot of fans that were wearing Pittsburgh Penguins sweaters. They loved it. And, there was enough Pittsburgh fans that when Primeau came in, they were sort of taunting him by chanting Primeau, Primeau from the upper deck at home. And this is a kid whose confidence is already pretty much crushed. But it was just I can't remember a lot of games like that or any really games like that bad since Marty St. Louis took over. And I thought after the game he'd be angry. And I asked him a question. I said to him, I don't know if you get upset or angry behind the bench, but if you do, what made you upset or angry last night? And he said he was more disappointed than upset or angry. But boy, if I was coaching that team last night, I would have been very angry.
I'm glad you brought up Martin St. Louis' comments after the game, because I wanted to talk about that first. I understand he's not the at this point, I think Canadiens fans know he's not going to, throw a tantrum and freak out. And you know what? Maybe that ship has sailed. Maybe it's too late for that to even happen and for it to have an effect. But I wish he was angry, because you had, minus all the Pittsburgh Penguins fans, you had a building full of angry people. The key thing is that at the end of the game, the last minute and a half, the Canadiens were getting booed off the ice.
Mm-hmm.
The entire building was booing. And, so that means the fans were pissed off. The fans are still invested. So you still have something, because if they weren't pissed off and they weren't invested, you would have had silence. And that's worse.
Yeah.
That's worse.
The worst thing in an angry fan base is a fan base that doesn't care anymore.
Exactly. And this fan base still cares because they believe in what the Canadiens are doing. So, you know what? Maybe Martin St. Louis should have gotten angry, because he had a building full of angry fans, and it was embarrassing. It's disrespectful to do what they did. And it was a disgusting performance all around. And I think it's high time Martin St. Louis, stop trying to find the right words in his and come up with these speeches post game and just be pissed off. Be angry at his players and maybe hold some of them accountable for what we're seeing on the ice, because it's unacceptable.
Well, you compare it to Patrick Roy's reaction last night. So two extremes almost, right, in personalities. But Roy's Islanders won 5-4, but they left their goalie hanging out to dry. And Roy said, if I was playing in my day, I would have been breaking sticks in the locker room after the game. He says, my goalie's a gentleman. That's not his personality. But I would, and he was upset. His team won. And he was upset. I mean, there's, as I said, there's one extreme to the other, right? Patrick, one of the reasons that I don't think he was ever hired here in Montreal is because of that emotional hard time he has controlling his emotions. But I mean, the closest Marty's really got to being upset was when he said they threw up all over themselves after one of the games that got blown out this season. And then he bag skated. I mean, that's 8 times now in 29 games the Canadiens are giving up 6 or more goals. And, you can't teach offense. Like, it's hard to teach you can't teach a guy who doesn't have good hands how to score. Dvorak, an example, breakaway last night, hits the goalie right in the chest. But you can teach guys how to play defense. And this team, there's too many nights they can't play defense. So whether it's the system is wrong, the coaching is wrong. Yes, they do have a lot of young defensemen, age 23 and under. But, man, they shouldn't be that bad. I mean, that third period. And they should – and good on Cayden Primeau. We walked in the room afterwards, and Nick Suzuki was there. He's a captain. He has to be there. And Cayden Primeau was there. And I said to him, I know you don't want to talk to us on a night like this. And he said, no, it's part of the job. And he was very straightforward and honest. And he says, it's embarrassing. We all should be embarrassed, including myself. But they need – I don't know how many guys were embarrassed, to be honest. I mean, they didn't play like they cared about being embarrassed. I felt for Cayden Primeau, I didn't think we'd see him in goal again until they play those back-to-backs December 20th and 21st against Detroit. But I guess Marty figured he had to, give Sam Montembeault a little break there. And we were talking with some of the media guys outside the room, and they're saying, that really wasn't fair what they did to Primeau. They've been trying, the goalie coach been trying to work on his confidence, get his confidence level back up, and then to get put into that situation and get shelled, giving up 3 goals on 7 shots. But I think they've reached the point with Primeau now that they basically just throw him in there as cannon fodder. I think they've seen enough of Cayden Primeau. I've seen enough of Cayden Primeau that I don't believe he's an NHL goalie or has a future with this team. And maybe that's the thinking why they just put him in there and figured it's more important for us to save Sam Montembeault's confidence moving forward than it is to worry about Cayden Primeau and his teammates. Cayden Primeau's a likable kid. I imagine his teammates like him, and to leave him to hang out the way he did. I mean, they had 3 goals and 7 shots, but he didn't get much help. They had basically given up. And I felt bad for him. Like that's teammates shouldn't let him hang out to dry like that. And it's hard to put your finger on what the problem is. If they're just starting to accept losing, if they're frustrated that the defensive system, that sort of hybrid system that Marty uses, isn't working, although it did work for an extended period there where they they made few tweaks or being more aggressive at it. But the score, the most goals a team has given up in the NHL this season, and there's been a lot of games. But even more than the goals given up was just the total lack of effort in front of your home crowd. Like if I had taken my family to the game last night and spent $1,000 for 4 tickets and $43 to park my car and $16 for a beer and $6 for a hot dog, I would have been booing. I would have been among those booing, because it's like if you go to a Broadway show or you go to a movie or something and it's horrible, you're either going to leave or you're going to boo. And fans spoke last night, but they just got up and left en masse when there was about 8 minutes left in the game. And it's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, it's when you get an empty building, 8 minutes left, 7 minutes left, whatever it is, that should be an indicator to the team, hey, something's got to change.
And the Penguins were having a great time. I mean, the camera shots at the Penguins bench, they were laughing and having a grand old time. And I got in the elevator with Kyle Dubas and a couple of his assistants, and they were sort of high-fiving each other. Like, to come into Montreal in the Bell Center and totally embarrass the Canadiens must feel wonderful when you're the visiting team. It must be one of the best feelings to have.
The last time the Penguins were here, they embarrassed the Canadiens too. They won 6-3, and the Canadiens scored 3 goals, but that game wasn't particularly close at any point.
And when they announced the stars, there wasn't that many people left. But when they announced Sidney Crosby as a second star, he got a really nice ovation from the fans, and it wasn't only the Pittsburgh fans. I'm sure he entertained them. Yeah, Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is one of my favorite all-time players because, apart from his incredible talent that he has Brendan Gallagher's work ethic. Like this guy, every single shift. I don't think I've ever seen him take a shift off, and he's like the best player, was the best player, and arguably still is the best player in the NHL. And he put on a performance last night at the Bell Center, and so did his teammates, and the Canadiens were spectators. Yeah. And you know what? Hey, at least the next time Canadiens fans will see Sidney Crosby, they'll be able to cheer for him. That's right. Canada. So it'll be the Four Nations face-off. They'll be able to cheer for him, and they won't have to dread Sidney Crosby coming to the Bell Center. It's there's just so many levels to this. And, remind me again what Brendan Gallagher said after the game. Like I said, we're not putting on an entertaining product. Just give me 1 second. I have the quote here. He says, our game can't fall off that match. We say we got to learn from it. We do, but eventually you can only say it so long. You have to go out there and take action as a group. Just disappointing. It's an awful feeling. The fans are booing. They deserve to boo. We're not providing an entertaining product. It's as simple as that. We're disappointed in ourselves. But for us, it's learn from it and make sure this doesn't happen again. To say it was not a good enough effort is an understatement. It's something that we need to correct. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. It doesn't get any easier for us, but we should all have all the reason to respond with our best effort in Winnipeg. It's a good challenge for us. I trust that our group will put forth a better effort. It'd be hard to put forth a worse effort. That's right. So this is a mismatch. The Jets are at home, as I mentioned before, plus 34 goal differential, the best in the league. The Canadiens are the worst at minus 29. This could get ugly again tomorrow night. And I'm gonna even go back to the game again on Monday against the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, they won.
The Jets are 10-3-1 at home this season.
Well, there you go. And the Canadiens, I mean,
are 3-8-1 on the road. Yeah,
I was going to say they're better on the road than they are at home, but they're not.
They're not.
They're not. But I'll take it back to Monday night. The Canadiens played the Anaheim Ducks and they won. I don't know though. That will also. It seemed like alarm bells should have went off after that game, because if they didn't play against the Anaheim Ducks and they played against anyone else in the National Hockey League, that's a different scoreline and a different result for sure. Yeah. Because that wasn't exactly entertaining brand of hockey either. And
the shootout was the Laine and Caulfield scoring, but they needed a shootout to beat a not very good hockey team, and then they got blown out by another not very good hockey team, which just highlights that the Canadiens are not a good hockey team.
Exactly. So, I think I'm going to stop falling for the trap. In the mix, out of the question. It's over. I mean,
they've won 3 games in a row once in the last 2 seasons. They did it at the end of last March. They're not going to win 3 games in a row this season. I can't see them doing that. The overall team play is too inconsistent. The goaltending is too inconsistent. Sam Montembeault has been hot and cold. When he's really, really good, he's really good. When he's bad, he doesn't get much help on any night. So when your goalie's off, it's going to be hard for the goalies. It was sort of impressive that Montembeault was able to get his save percentage back up over 900 ahead of last night. But it's there's just, this is just not a good hockey team. And you look at from a goals perspective. I mean, Brendan Gallagher was playing. He has no goals in the last 10 games. I mean, the effort. Josh Anderson, no goals in the last 11 games. Juraj Slafkovsky has 1 goal in the last 22 games. Christian Dvorak has no goals in the last 13 games. He has 1 assist over that span. Dvorak, Doc, and Slafkovsky all have 2 goals this season. It's a bad hockey team. And the guys that are supposed to be good aren't good. They've got more. Their bottom 6 has been better than their top 6, with the exception of Caulfield and Suzuki.
And I'll say this about at least one of the names that you've mentioned was Josh Anderson. I think he's the pressure is off him because the heat. I mean, no one's talking about him because he scored a couple goals this year. Yeah. But I think he's having an okay season. I don't think if his price tag was $3 million instead of $5 million. That's
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. So I think he's having an okay
season. He's been really good penalty killing. His effort level's there. He's second on the team in hits behind Xhekaj. You notice him when he's on the ice. He still misses a lot of scoring chances. I mean, I don't know how many times Lane Hudson set him up this year with a great chance and he's failed to finish. Josh Anderson has played well this season. He really has. And his effort level has been good and his mind seems to be good after what he went through last year. But he's not producing offensively. And when you're paying guys that kind of money, I mean, they have the most expensive. That's probably the most expensive third line in the NHL: Dvorak, Gallagher, and Anderson. And they're a good third line. Dvorak
not so much, but
they're better. They had Evans moved up there, but they're an okay third line. But that's a lot of money to spend on your third line.
The thing that another player is Dvorak, and the thing that amazes me is just. I've never seen a guy get so many breakaways, and just, get a long lead pass and just can't do anything with it.
Last night, I mean, he goes to the backhand and he backhands it and hits the goalie right in the Penguins' crest. It's like, how does that happen with an NHL player on a breakaway? It's, you're going 5-hole or you're going top corner. You shouldn't be hitting the goalie in the chest on a breakaway and not on a backhand. Now, I can't remember who it was. I saw highlights last night. Did somebody with Philadelphia came in on a breakaway, took a slap shot, top corner from the slot? I mean, I don't know. Christian, try that next time, maybe. He probably missed the net the way things have been going for him this year. But, the hype surrounding him. I mean, Marc Bergevin loved that guy, right? He was the replacement for Philippe Danault. And he wasn't alone. I mean, Dvorak was at the top of the trade bait list, right? He was But, man, oh, man, whether it's the pressure of playing in this market as opposed to Arizona or what it is, he's just it's almost like he's out there for a public skate. Like there's just nothing happens. It's the stick is sort of like where goals go to die. Like I know he's frustrated, obviously, His line mates are probably a little frustrated too. And the coaching staff, I'm sure, is frustrated. But, I mean, he won't be with the Canadiens after the trade deadline. I mean, some team will probably be interested in him just because he can take faceoffs and kill penalties, and it's the last year of his contract, and it won't cost him too much to get him or to pay him just for what's left on his contract. But he's definitely not going to be here after March 7th.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's too many points where it's like, at what point is all these subtractions are going to lead to a positive thing? Because the Canadiens still need players on the ice. And frankly, I think it's time that, maybe Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, they kind of not completely shift their plan, but maybe start to look at plan B, plan C, whatever plan, because whatever plan they're on is not working. And there's only so long you could stay patient for, because, there's not one way to build a team. It's not through the draft. That's not true anymore. I refuse to believe that, because frankly, the last 2 Stanley Cup winners, you can't tell me that they built through the draft. It was the Florida Panthers and it was the Vegas Golden Knights. Both those teams traded their way and signed their way to Stanley Cups. Yeah. And they had stuff to give away, I'm sure. And Florida got a couple good deals. You rinse a couple teams a couple times, but you can't just stay complacent and let these contracts ride out into the sunset, because you're wasting time. Frankly, it's time wasted that you could be improving no matter what. And it's boggling to me.
Well, I mean, the shine's definitely coming off Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton. I mean,
big time.
In hindsight, that decision to keep 3 goalies last year with Cayden Primeau, boy, oh boy. I mean, it basically wasn't good for any of them. Sam Montembeault could have been your number 1 goalie last year and given him the opportunity to see what he could do with Jake Allen as the backup. And if he struggled, Jake Allen could have been your number 1. Instead, it was 3 goalies, didn't help any of them. And, they're going to end up losing Cayden Primeau for nothing, because I don't see anybody claiming it on waivers, and I don't see them getting anything for him in a trade. You look at Mitchkov, what he's doing now in Philadelphia. It's hard to compare. Reinbacher hasn't played a game yet with the injuries or that, but I mean, he's lighting it up, and Canadiens are a team that can't score. Shane Wright's got 7 goals. He had 6 goals in a 10-game span there. He's starting to come along with Seattle, developing after, they took a different route with him than what the Canadiens took with Slafkovsky and sent them to the AHL. He had 22 goals last season with Coachella Valley in 59 games, 7 goals this season with Seattle. It's too early to start saying right pick, wrong pick, but a lot of things that were looking good for the Canadiens and Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes are now looking not so good, right? They're not looking that good. The Kirby Doc, I mean, I was doing my Habs mailbag earlier today that published on the Gazette website on the weekend. One of the questions was about Kirby Doc. Do you give up on him now and trade him? And I was saying, after that serious knee injury you had, you got to give him this full season, I think, before you can have an honest evaluation of his play, physical toll and the mental toll. But my concern watching Doc now is how much is a knee injury and how much is this the player the Chicago Blackhawks saw, which is why they gave up on him 3 years after making him the number 3 overall pick and traded him to the Canadiens. So I'm sort of weighing both of those things, right? But I think we need to give him a full season. There's still 50-odd games left. But, minus 21. I asked Marty St. Louis yesterday actually about the plus minus and if he puts any emphasis in it. A lot of people say it's a useless stat, and in a lot of ways it is. Empty net goals count as a minus if you're on. And he said it's a stat like any stat, but there's certain things that times you'll look at it. Like Nick Suzuki was plus 2 going into last night's game for the season, which was quite remarkable on a bad team. And it's also quite remarkable that you're minus 21. I mean, that says something. If you're, especially as a forward, usually the highest plus minus or the worst plus minus on a team is going to be your defenseman who plays the most minutes, especially on a bad team. If you're a top pairing defenseman on a bad team, you're on the ice a lot against the other team's best teams. Your minus is going to be horrible. But for Kirby Doc, I think that minus number speaks volumes about his performance this season.
So there's physical capabilities, and I understand it's this, it's this kind of same but different thing that Cole Caulfield was going through last season because he had that shoulder surgery,
Yeah,
he didn't have a
very
full
good
off season,
comparison.
but he was able to bring it all together. This is, I think at least from what it sounds like, a way more significant injury.
Oh yeah.
However, at the same time, that shouldn't take away your effort level or your hockey sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean the effort.
That game.
I'm not sure how much of it is. I'm worried I'm going to hurt my knee again. You know what I mean? And that's the hesitation, or is that just how he plays?
It's tough to say that's how he plays
right now.
After
seeing how he's played. The shoulder injury. The shoulder injury is something you think about when you're going to get hit, right?
Yeah.
Or when you shoot the puck. A knee injury is something you think about every time you're on the ice, every stride you take, right? So it's a different sort of apples and oranges when you're comparing the injuries. But again, it was a massive injury, and we saw, not last season because he only played 2 games, the season before, that Kirby Dach can be a dominant player with his size and his skill. But can he do that consistently? Or is that like a flash in the pan type thing? Is that why the Blackhawks gave up on him? Because they didn't see him doing that consistently enough. And it's their top 6 is they're getting nothing really. Apart from Caulfield and Suzuki, it's I mean, that's why I keep saying I'd like to see Emil Heineman moved up and given a chance on the top 6. The effort level is going to be there for sure. He's going to shoot the puck when he gets a chance to shoot it. He's going to jump at that opportunity. And I actually asked him about that the other day after practice. And he's 23 years old. He's a rookie. He's just happy to be in the NHL right now, right? He's not going to complain or whine. He's comfortable in the line that he's playing with and the role he's playing with Armia and Evans. But at some point, you have to reward a young guy like him and penalize a guy like Dach or Slafkovsky or Newhook when they're not performing. And Slafkovsky got back on the number 1 line last night near the end of the second. Stayed there for the 3rd. That's the first time he's been there since suffering his upper body injury after the 6th game. And he was averaging a point a game over the first 6 games of those guys. So I've wondered why it's taken Marty so long to put Slafkovsky back there to try and get him going. We'll see if that works. He's another guy, like he's looking like he did at the beginning of last season, making bad decisions in his own end, falling a lot, losing puck battles to guys who are a lot smaller than him. It's hard to understand after how dominant he was at the second half of last season, which is why Kent Hughes gave him that huge contract. And that again, we're talking about things not looking so good. It doesn't look so good right now that Kent Hughes gave him that contract, right? We'll see the jump the gun a little bit too early. Again, too early to make that full assessment if he comes back and plays great this season. But there's a lot of the shine is wearing off Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes and Marty St. Louis. And with reason, because there's a lot of moves and decisions that they've made that right now really aren't looking good. And there's going to be peaks and valleys in a rebuild as a team and as players. But boy, right now it's everything's
a hell of a valley. Hell of a valley they're in.
It really is a hell of a valley.
Just to bring it back to Dach for a second, I just don't understand why he's even recognized he's down. His confidence is down. He's playing tentative. Does that not signal to the coach, hey, maybe make him watch a game from up in the press box,
or put him on the 4th line and give him 10 minutes a game.
It's
what I mean? And make him hungry for ice time, like with Heineman. Heineman's getting like 10 minutes a game, and now he wants to move up. Every guy wants to move higher in the lineup. He's not going to go complain. He's a 23-year-old rookie, but maybe a little less ice time. And a little less. I mean, he did put him on the 4th line with Slafkovsky at one point there when they were both struggling.
But when that's your 4th line, it's not really your 4th line.
No, but you got to start rewarding some of the younger guys more. I mean, it was nice to see Jake Evans get rewarded earlier this season, get moved up to the 2nd line when he was going good. But there's so many guys struggling, like Brendan Gallagher. I love Brendan Gallagher as a player and a person. 10 games he hasn't scored. He went through a stretch like this last season also. But he's playing with Christian DeVore. Do you move Gallagher back up and give him a chance to play with some better players up in the top six and see what he can do? I mean, he was scoring earlier, right? And but I think Marty's got to start doing. I don't know if drastic's the right word, but doing some stuff to try and shake guys up and make them a little less comfortable. Because last night, that looked like a team that was comfortable losing. Not only losing, but getting embarrassed. And they almost look comfortable with it. And that's a really, really worrying sign for this team moving forward. It's a worrying sign about the coaching staff. I think Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes will do everything in their power not to fire Marty St. Louis. I think that's the last thing that they want to do. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, if guys aren't playing for you, that's what cost Dominic Ducharme's job. Guys, stop playing for him. And you gotta start wondering, and again, I've said right from day one this season, I was really surprised they didn't bring in a coach with NHL experience to help Marty behind the bench. On a game like last night, when just everything, as he says, when he said in French, the chain breaks and flies off. Sometimes it helps to have a guy who's been around a long time behind an NHL bench to maybe just help settle things down. Just help. Marty's the development coach and the communicator and everything else, but he doesn't have a lot of experience coaching anywhere. Mm-hmm. Never mind behind the NHL bench. I really think the Canadiens made a mistake when they didn't. Marty obviously didn't want that. But sometimes upper management, you got to make decisions that maybe the coach doesn't like or players don't like. And I think Marty really could have been helped by having an experienced coach with him behind the bench. And we see Luke Richardson's been fired now in Chicago. Like, it'd be great to bring him back. I get all kinds of people asking me, should they bring him back? I don't think they will. I don't know if Luke Richardson would want to come back. He's still getting paid by the Blackhawks until the end of the season. He might want to wait. Paycheck still coming in, wait and see if another head coaching position opens somewhere or another assistant coaching position opens somewhere. I mean, I don't think Luke Richardson will be out of work for a long time. Nate Thompson, former Canadian, tweeted after he got fired, says he won't be unemployed long. One of my favorite coaches I ever played for. Guys in Montreal loved Luke Richardson. I remember Ben Schrott during the playoffs when Dominic Ducharme had COVID and wasn't around, saying how we'd all skate through a wall for Luke Richardson. He's a good man. He's a good coach. He won't be. He's going to coach somewhere else again. I don't think he's going to come back to Montreal. I don't know if the Canadiens want him to come back to Montreal. I mean, instead they went and they hired Roger Grillo, who was Marty St. Louis' assistant coach in Vermont, another development guy, worked for USA Hockey and development for years and years and years. Never been behind an NHL bench. Still hasn't been behind an NHL bench. He's watching games from the press box or the management loge. But if I'm Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, I'm thinking really seriously now. As I said, the last thing I think they want to do is fire Marty St. Louis. But I think he needs a little help behind the bench.
Yeah, he needs help because it just feels like the Canadiens are just doing the same thing over and over and over again every single game. And what's the old saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's just what it feels like at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it feels like that.
This is year 3, the third full season for Marty. And the first 2 seasons, you could count on one hand and still have fingers left over how many times guys gave up in a game and stopped working. Well, it's happened a few times this year, right? It's happened quite a few times this year. As I mentioned, 8 times they've given up 6 or more goals in a game. It's not all on the goaltending, right? Goaltending's been up and down, especially with Cayden Primeau. It's been a lot more down. But that's a sign of your team's just not playing enough defense. And again, you can teach defense. Even with young players, you can teach defense. Maybe they need to dumb down their defensive system a little bit in their own zone. And make it more simple, but could the Jets score 9 goals Saturday night?
I wouldn't.
Might get 6 or 7. It wouldn't shock me. 9 is a big number. I mean, it's the most goals given up this season. But I mean, the Jets know they lost 9-2. This is a really hard. It's very rare. Like Winnipeg's a 1-game road trip.
Yeah.
No, you're on a different time zone, and they practiced this morning, flying to Winnipeg and play, and that doesn't happen. This is a sort of there's a lot of sort of weird parts in the schedule this year with the Canadiens. This is one of them. So it's like a 1-game trip to Winnipeg where you're playing one of the best teams in the NHL and you're just coming off an ass kicking. And the Jets are sitting at home licking their chops, I'm sure, waiting for the puck to drop Saturday night.
Yeah, because they know they could pounce, and it's just 2 more valuable points for them in a very competitive division that they're in. You know, they got to be on. The Jets are a team that has to be on every single night because of the division they're in and the teams at the upper echelon of that division.
Yeah.
And the Canadiens, with the way that they take it easy some nights, frankly, even when they play hard, they can't. That Winnipeg is just a team they can't skate with. The only way that the Canadiens will win tomorrow night is if Winnipeg puts out a performance like the Canadiens did last night, and the Canadiens put forward their best foot. There's no other way, because it's a different class that they're in. And it's, you know what the hardest part is that even with, you want to look into the future, you have Ivan Demidov. Sure, I'll put Michael Hage's name in there too, but really, you got nothing else coming forward. You got nothing.
Well, I got Jacob Fay, got a goalie coming up, which is
sure you have a goalie,
but
a goalie.
Yeah, but the thing is, the guy, when they made the trade for Doc and they made the trade for Newhook, it was to speed up the rebuilding process. Get guys who already have some NFL experience under their belt. They're a little older. It was to speed it up. It's not speeding it up right now. And we'll see how the picks that they give up turn out in the future going forward. And, Slafkovsky is a big concern right now. I mean, Kent Hughes said, after he signed him that contract and before the season, there's going to be ups and downs with Slafkovsky again.
It's been nothing but a down.
But he looks like he did at the beginning of last season. He looks lost out there. And I don't remember a guy that big falling down that much. I mean, that was a knock on Kotkaniemi, but Kotkaniemi wasn't nearly as big as Slafkovsky, and losing puck battles against the boards against guys he shouldn't be losing them against, and that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign, especially with that big contract kicking in next season. Again, I've written it and I've said it. I don't know why Marty took him off that number 1 line so long. He started the season well. He had a goal and 5 assists the first 6 games. Got hurt and then never got back with them again. And maybe they wanted him to prove that he could, or see if he could play without those guys. With Laine coming in, are you going to put Laine in there with Demidov coming next year? Maybe trying to find out where Slafkovsky might fit when those 2 guys are here, and maybe it's not on the number 1 line. But they got to get him going. Like, they got to get his. They've done a lot of things with Kirby Dach to try and get him going, including playing him with Suzuki and Caulfield. I think now the focus needs to shift more to how do we get Juraj Slafkovsky going again? And if it's putting him with Caulfield and Suzuki and leaving him there for 10 games, then do that.
Yeah, well, it's...
And then after that, if he still isn't producing, now you got a real problem.
Yeah, because it just looks like how he looked since the beginning of the season. You used the word lost. I used the word since the beginning of the season, disengaged.
Yeah.
Just, you know how the team gave up last night? It looked like everyone didn't give a shit. That's how he's looked all season. He fell into some points at the beginning of the season because he's a skilled guy, and Suzuki and Caulfield were putting the puck in the back of the net. And frankly, they looked a little disengaged also at the beginning of the season, but they've turned it around. So he's just looked so uninterested, disengaged, whatever word you want to use, just not there. He's not. It's like they're skating with 11 forwards.
Well, and I know there's a lot of Canadiens fans who would defend Slafkovsky no matter what. Like, no matter how bad he was playing, they would say, "Oh, he's I'm not hearing as much from those people right now. It's quiet on the Slafkovsky bandwagon right now. With and I hope, I want Juraj Slafkovsky to do well. I really like him as a kid. He's a fun kid to be around. Great personality. His teammates love him. He's got all the potential there. He's got the size. He's got everything. But man, oh man, and again, as I mentioned, with Shane Wright starting to come along in Seattle, certain people get upset at me on Twitter or whatever for mentioning things like that. But you have to mention, that's the way the world works with the draft. 5 years after draft, you look and say, well, why didn't they draft this guy? Why did they take this guy? Why did they take Kotkaniemi instead of Brady Tkachuk? It goes on, not just in Montreal, every team, right? And not only Montreal, we were watching Michkov. There were 6 teams who passed on Michkov, right? So there was obviously reasons why, right? There were some red flags there, and the Canadiens were one of the teams that decided not to take him, and Philadelphia did. And right now, it's looking like a great move by Philadelphia and Danny Briere. And with Reinbacher, it's hard to compare because he's been hurt, but he didn't play very well last season over in Europe, and he's not going to play this season. He might be back. I can see him. They said 5-6 months, so maybe he'll play with the Laval Rocket at the end of the season, and hopefully they go on a long playoff run, and he'll get some experience there. But I mean, those guys are going to be compared forever. Shane Wright and Slafkovsky and Logan Cooley. That's the way it is. NHL draft's a crapshoot in many times, and it takes, as I say, it takes 5 years before you can accurately judge a rebuild. Not whether the completed product is done, but you can. Okay, they've done things right. They're after 5 years. This looks okay. This rebuild is working. Not meaning you're going to win the Stanley Cup after 5 years.
Yeah, of course.
You got a good team now. This has worked. Same thing with the draft. You got to wait at least 5 years, and then you can say, okay, they were smart taking Slafkovsky. They should have taken Logan Cooley, or they should have taken Shane Wright. And 6 teams could say we should have taken Michkov. Too early to judge that right now. But again, as I mentioned earlier, right now there's a lot of things that have taken the shine off of Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes, and Marty St. Louis.
This might be oversimplifying it, but I think what the Canadiens need is a player who, I don't know, like a player that's just, the best way to describe him is, because frankly, it doesn't feel like they have one, and it felt like they had one in Arbor Xhekaj, but then, whatever confidence and, whatever he was showing on the ice was just stripped away from him, and it's nowhere to be found. But they need a dog. They need someone that is an absolute dog. And Brendan Gallagher is that guy, but that's too much of a player of his age to be shouldering right now. They need a guy that's going to drag them into the fight. They need someone, frankly, who's a little bit of a mean person. They need those types of players.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you. Yes and no, I agree with that. They could use a guy like that. I think what they need more is another Sean Monahan. Is a really respected veteran player who maybe doesn't speak up that much. Like Sean Monahan, if he was on that bench last night or in the room last night, I imagine he would not have been a very happy camper. And he would have been letting his teammates know, like, this is unacceptable. And he has the respect from everybody. The Blue Jackets coach was interviewed when the Canadiens were there, and he was saying that Sean Monahan is a pro's pro, a real pro. So that's the biggest compliment you can give any hockey player, is he's a real pro. I think they're missing a Sean Monahan in the locker room and on the ice, and they're missing a Luke Richardson type behind the bench. I think they need some more experience behind the bench, and I think they need some more experience and veteran leadership in the locker room. That's not a knock on Brendan Gallagher or a knock on Nick Matheson, but a play. And you don't just go out and grab a Sean Monahan. The only reason the Canadiens were even able to get him because Flames thought he was done with all his injuries. Yeah. Right? Now he's having a great season in Columbus. I'm really happy for him. I love Sean Monahan as a hockey player. I really liked him as a person in the short time I got to know him here a little bit. Those guys are hard to find, though. And I understand why they traded him. I mean, Michael Hage is who they got with the draft pick for him. But they're too young and too inexperienced behind the bench and on the ice and in the locker room. And it'll be interesting to see what Kent Hughes does at the trade deadline. Like I said, I think the last thing in the world they want to do, or it's going to be a very last resort if they decide to fire Marty St. Louis, in my opinion. But they need to, you can't just keep bringing in more draft picks and more young guys. You got to have some veteran guys around. And we saw that last night. I mean, who on the bench was the guy who was going to say enough, enough.
No. And it's how many times have I said, let Buffalo and Anaheim, we just saw Anaheim, be cautionary tales about those people who just constantly want losses and draft picks and draft picks. It's a real thing. You look at Anaheim, how many times in an off season are Anaheim at the top of the list, number one in best prospects coming up in the NHL. Where they've been at the top of that list, it seems like since 2015.
Yeah.
You know, people are talking about them because they've been bad forever. Of course, they're going to have good prospects, but that's not getting them anywhere. And it doesn't even look like that they're even close to turning the corner at any point.
And I mean, how many top 5, top 10 draft picks have the Buffalo Sabres had over the years?
And they've got, good, you would take a lot of those players on your team any
and
day.
They still lose, and they can't make the playoffs. And prospects are prospects. You don't know. I mean, that's going back to Michkov, and Habs fans don't want to hear about him, a lot of them. But what's making him impressive? Slavkovsky's the number 1 overall pick. He comes in here and growing pains and learning, and this and that. And Michkov comes in and boom, just lights it up. You know what I mean? Right off the bat, he's point a game, scoring crazy goals. Tried the Michigan there last night, just missed it. John Tortorella might bench him for that. You never know. But again, 6 other teams passed on him. But there's no, I always tell people, go through the NHL draft year by year, the first round, 80% of the guys, you have no idea who they are. And so when you can hit on a guy, especially later on in the first round like that, that gives your franchise a boost. And when you miss, takes your team down. One of the big reasons the Canadiens became the worst team in the league is because they missed on their first round draft pick like 7 years in a row. And a team can't recover from that. You were saying, draft isn't the only way to build a team. I agree with you. But when you miss on your first round pick 7 years in a row, you're gonna have a crappy hockey team. Yeah,
because they're not even going to be a tradable asset.
No, especially in a salary cap world, because the young guys coming up are the ones not making money, right? And you're
exactly.
So if you're always trading and bringing in guys, they're making bigger salaries, and it's so you got to do well in the draft. And Canadiens have a lot of prospects, a lot of really promising prospects. Jacob Fowler looks like a great goalie prospect. So did Cayden Primeau. It's you never know. I mean, and Lane Hudson, here's a guy, 2nd round pick. How many teams passed over him before the Canadiens took him? And now he comes at the NHL and boom, he can play.
Exactly.
So you got to find those players in the draft. And, he's had more of an instant impact in the NHL than Juraj Slavkovsky did, right?
Yep.
That's just the crapshoot of the NHL draft. And if Lane Hudson was 6'4" and 220 pounds, he probably would have been a number 1, 2, or 3 draft pick. So there's so many factors that go in to deciding who you're going to pick. And one of the reasons the Canadiens picked Slavkovsky is they thought he could handle the pressure here in Montreal, and he has shown that he can. Playing well, playing bad, he's able to deal with the spotlight, which a lot of guys can't. We're talking like a Shane Wright guy, and you look at the way he reacted at the draft. Yeah, and you wonder, would he be able to do in Montreal what he might be able to do in Seattle moving forward? Same with Michkov. With the spotlight here compared to Philadelphia, there's a pretty bright hockey spotlight in Philadelphia also. So all those things get factored in. But there's reason for concern now with the Canadiens, some of their draft picks, some of their trades, and getting blown out 9-2 on home ice.
Yeah, well, to bring it back to Slavkovsky, it's like you said, he's been handling the pressure quite well, and it's not. I don't even think it's a pressure thing because
I don't think so. He has more pressure. He gets more pressure from his home media than he does in Montreal. He's told us that. So no, it's not. It's not a pressure thing. I wonder if he was maybe sulking a bit and disappointed and asking himself the same way I was asking myself, why aren't I playing with Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki? Maybe. Why is Kirby Dach staying there when he's doing nothing? Why don't I get a chance to go there and show what I do? Why is Alex Newhook playing with them and I'm not? And I'm sure that's part of what's going through his head. And yes, he handles the spotlight very well here, but he's still 20 years old. And a 20-year-old's going to handle that differently than a 26, 27, 28. I remember talking recently with Mike Matheson after he had that horrible game in Boston. He had another bad game last night about getting over bad games. And he said, I've always been able to admit when I had a bad game. And as I've gotten further in my career, I'm able to get over it and bounce back quicker than that. And Marty St. Louis said a similar thing. I was a different person at 20, 21 than I was at 26, 27, 28 in the NHL. And I think we all need to remember sometimes that Juraj Slavkovsky is 20 years old. And again, if I'm questioning why he's not playing on the number 1 line, I'm sure he is. And, Arpin Basu wrote in The Athletic that Kent Hughes had a discussion with Slafkovsky recently. I'm sure it's like, get going, man. And maybe they did bring up, or Slafkovsky brought up, how come I'm not playing on the number one line? I'm just speculating here. And maybe Hughes said, well, show us that you deserve to be there. So, as I said, the only sort of maybe bright spot about last night's game was seeing Slafkovsky get a chance to go back with Suzuki and Caulfield. And I imagine he'll start there tomorrow night against Winnipeg. And now show us, if you were upset, show us now that we made a mistake by not putting you there.
Yep.
Yeah,
because
show us that we were wrong in not putting you back there.
You know what? If nothing else, it really just breaks up that second line. Like, I know, we're still in the honeymoon phase of Patrick Laine, and there's no knocks on him. You can't knock him for anything he's done yet.
No,
but that line is just it's a collective. I'm not pointing.
No, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't even
slow line. It's a very slow line.
I would even put Laine with Caulfield and because you can tell Laine is like not in game shape. Like he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
He's having. I mean, he took a therapy day off for practice yesterday, I guess it was, or sorry, the day before, and he's coming back from a knee injury too. Then he came back quicker maybe than a lot of people expected. But it's a thing with a knee injury, you're not doing any cardio, right? And he said the first game back he was dead after 20 seconds every shift. He was gassed, and you can see he's still running out of gas pretty quick in his shifts. But maybe you play him with Suzuki and Caulfield, quicker guys, and he can just sort of float around and get open. And
that's
it. But I agree. He like him with Doc and Slafkovsky does not work. There's not enough speed on that line. There's not enough creativity to get him the puck. You want him. Laine Arpin had a great line in the preseason when he was saying that Laine goes around the ice like a great white shark, just circling and circling and circling, looking to attack. And let him do that and put him with two guys who are going to win puck battles, get the puck, and get him the puck.
But that's it.
Then let him shoot. And Doc and Slafkovsky aren't those two guys, at least not right now.
Well, that's it. It's just that's why I had to say, like, it's no knock on him at all.
No.
The guy scored 3 goals in 5 games since he's been
all on the power play. You gotta remember they're all on the power play too, where he doesn't need to move around as much, right?
And he's playing with Suzuki and Caulfield.
Yes, exactly. And Lane Hudson. Yeah.
So
that's a great line that Laine had recently when I asked him about Hudson on the power play. What's it like playing with him? And he says, "Well, I don't know what he's going to do." So the PK guys certainly don't know what he's going to do.
But that's it. So he's been, for what he's been providing, he's been great so far. It's just that line is just not working, and it's to no fault of his own. It's a collective that's a collective reason why that line isn't working. So that would be honestly the biggest benefit to that line, to Slafkovsky moving up, and putting Alex Newhook. Alex Newhook's shown that he could fly up and down the ice.
That's some speed. I mean, Marty St. was saying the other day that's his biggest. We all knew that's his biggest asset is his speed. And he said he's got to learn how to use it defensively as much as offensively, and he'll be a really good 200-foot player. But a guy like some speed like that will certainly help Laine. At least getting the puck into the zone, getting it in, and then letting Laine come in late, look for some open ice. And Kirby Doc's got to help with that too, right? I mean, it's Kirby Doc has to be better. I mean, he knows that. Everybody knows that. Can he do that though? Can he do that now with the knee injury? And more importantly, can he do that in the future once whatever mental concerns or physical concerns he has with his knee? Can he do that consistently once and hopefully and who knows if his knee is 100%, right? And he's not going to come and say, my knee's still hurting me, or I don't think he will. But it was a major knee surgery, and maybe just still doesn't feel comfortable skating and moving around and turning and whatnot.
It just, with the way Kirby, what Kirby Doc is reminding me of right now? It's reminding me of that person that's like, you ever have that friend that's like, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start, I really got to start going to the gym. Okay, it's great that you recognized it and, you've said it out loud.
Get off your ass and go.
Take action.
Yeah.
At a certain point, just, obviously it's hard for me to say because I've never suffered that knee injury and I'm not a professional athlete. But at a certain point, how many times have you seen players in any sport have this injury. It's a pretty common football injury.
Yep.
Wide receivers, running backs suffer from it all the time. And really the only ones that don't, come back from that, and it's really the downfall of their career, are the ones that they've suffered it multiple times. To my knowledge, this is his first time suffering such a knee injury. And just, throw caution into the wind. Just go out there one night. Give it a go. Give it a rip. Be pissed off and give it a rip and see what happens.
If it's going to go, it's going to go. But, hockey players too, like their career and earnings and future. And do you want to blow out your knee? And not, I've spoken with both Sergio Momesso and Chris Nyan about this, and they both had major knee injuries during their careers.
Sure.
And they both spoke about how tough it was coming back, both mentally and physically, and getting it out of your head, that fear that you're going to hurt it again. But they both said at some point you have to just say, if it blows out again, it blows out again, and just go back to playing the game you played and hope it doesn't happen. And if it does happen, deal with it. But if you don't produce, you're going to be out of the NHL anyway, right?
But that's it.
Or you're not going to be making big bucks. So it's at some point, Kirby Dach, I think, has to get to the point where it's just, let's go. Like play pissed off. Play like your life depends on it. Play like you're not in the NHL yet, and the scouts are watching you. You got to prove that you can play in the NHL, and sort of take that mentality. And hopefully for him, he gets to that point and gets there soon, because Canadiens have been very, very patient with him. Understandably so, but patience eventually runs out, right?
And a lot can happen in a year and a half. Recovery wise, having a full off season and whatever. But in a year from now, he might be playing for his life in the NHL.
Yeah.
So, again, a lot can happen. A lot. But 1 year from now, Kirby Dach will be playing for his life in the NHL if it keeps going the way he's going. So, people thought that, that goal he scored against Anaheim, doesn't matter how you get him. It's about they don't ask how, they ask how many.
Yeah.
And he got one finally. He threw the monkey off his back. I noticed it. I was watching him as he skated towards the bench. He threw it off his back. Nothing. And he took another penalty late in the game. And my friend turned to me, who brought me to the game. He goes, "Oh, he's done. He's benched." I've seen this story before. He took another stupid penalty. He's going to be benched. He was back out there in overtime, and we were both surprised.
Yeah.
But now it's really.
Well, they had Dach and Sikorsky both out together in overtime with their 2 goals each, which is Marty trying to get them going again, right? Get some confidence going. And you're right. At the end of the season, if Cole Caulfield scores 45 goals this year, nobody's going to say, yeah, but 4 of them were empty netters. Nobody remembers.
Who cares? Exactly.
Got 45 goals. Yeah.
There you go. So, hey, listen, I was hoping that tomorrow's game was going to be a matinee, because, if it's an afternoon game, at least you didn't kill your night watching the hockey game if it's a bad performance. But 7:00 tomorrow night in Winnipeg. Stu, I know you'll be watching. I'll be watching, and I know all our viewers will be watching. So enjoy the game, and more importantly, enjoy your weekend.
All right, you too.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. Have a good weekend, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.